Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory to Christ.
Lord, help me. Lord, please help me. We've all been there at one time or another. And here in the gospel, we see this woman whose daughter is terribly tormented. And she goes straight to Jesus and says, Lord, help me. Lord, please help me. And at first it seems like Jesus is trying to say no. He's not, of course. He's revealing her great faith. And I think that is what often happens in our lives. We go to the Lord and we don't immediately hear an answer. And we are panicking. And we're saying, Lord, help me. Lord, please help me. And maybe he's testing our faith as well. I remember a time when I was well aware that my boss and her boss were having a meeting. And I knew that the meeting was about getting rid of me. And the steam coming off of my rosary. The steam coming off of my rosary. And I had no idea what I was going to do. No idea how I was going to legally provide for my family. No idea at all. But as I was holding on to that rosary for dear life, he gave me the grace to know that he was listening and that he would indeed help me, even if I had no idea how. And I think sometimes he lets us experience those dreadful times. Hopefully it's not very often. Please, God. But sometimes he lets us experience those dreadful moments just so we can hang on to a rosary for dear life. Just so we can hang on to him for dear life. I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from a lady in Canada, a friend of ours. She's like, Father, what do I do? What do I do? Father, what do I do? A whole life has fallen apart. Father, what do I do? And I'm thinking, I have no idea what you can do. But I remembered asking the same question myself. What do I do? What do I do? What can I do? And it was shortly after I had met my wife Amanda. And finally, here is the beautiful treasure of a potential wife that the Lord had shown me was coming. And here she was. And then it was as if my bishop changed his tune and said, we're not going to be able to send you back to the seminary after all. It's just too much of a political hot potato. We can't ordain married priests at the moment. And I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Lord, what do I do? Lord, what do I do? And my mind is just churning. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I thought, I'm going to have to go turn on the TV, watch Star Trek or something mindless just to take my mind off it, because otherwise I'm going to go crazy. So switch on the TV, and someone had left it on the preacher channel. And the preacher who was preaching at that particular moment was Joyce Meyer. And I don't know if you've ever heard Joyce Meyer, but she often gives a lot of very practical, very down-to-earth, very sensible advice. Such as, there's nothing Christian about letting your family or anybody else walk all over you. Sound advice. But no word of a lie. The exact words when I turned that TV on were, you're sitting there and the devil is saying to you, what are you going to do? 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 And she said, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to trust Jesus Christ until Jesus shows you what to do. And he will show you what to do. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. She said, fulfill your responsibilities, whatever they may be. Do whatever you have to do and wait for him to tell you what to do. Turned off the TV, I went to bed, and I slept like a baby. And the next day, the rector of the seminary called me and said, come back, we know what's going on, but come back and continue your studies as a lay student until we can find you a bishop who can ordain married priests. And thanks be to God, that's what happened. So I was telling my friend from Canada, I don't know what you can do, but I do know that he does know what you should do. And I do know that at the right time he will tell you. And I'd come across this book, which is by a Russian saint from the early 1800s. His name is Saint Ignatius, and his surname starts with a B, Brian Kaninov, or something like that. But anyway, he wrote a book for monastics called The Arena, which is amazing. But he also wrote this book called The Field, which is for lay people. And I'd never come across this book until a couple of weeks ago. And I'm flicking through it just after speaking to my friend. And I read these words. When you are suffering, do not seek human help. Do not waste precious time. Do not squander your spiritual strength on searching for that powerless human help. Await help from God. According to his will, people will come and help you at the proper time. Look often at Jesus. Before his murderers, he was like a lamb that in the hands of its shearers is dumb. He was delivered to death like a silent sheep to the slaughter. Do not take your eyes off him, and your sufferings will dissolve into heavenly spiritual sweetness. Through the wounds of Jesus, the wounds of your heart will be healed. Powerful words. If anybody follows me on Facebook, I'm going to upload them on Facebook. And if you want to look at them, please come and look at them after the liturgy. And so this is what I told my friend. Look to Jesus and let Jesus tell you what to do. In the epistle, we hear St. Paul saying, this saying is absolutely dependable and worthy of full acceptance, that Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners. Good news, we all qualify. We're all sinners, right? Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners. And that is absolutely dependable. And so often, too often, we make the mistake of thinking that salvation is just for after you die and go up there. That salvation is whenever you need it most. Jesus came into the world to save sinners. And that is absolutely dependable. As St. Paul says, worthy of full acceptance. And as Jesus dealt mercifully with St. Paul, the worst of sinners, as he himself says, we know that he will also deal mercifully with each one of us. Thank God that he will deal with us mercifully. So please God, you won't find yourself in that position. But if you ever do, if your life is falling apart around you, do what the woman in the gospel did. Go straight to Jesus. Don't even let the idiot disciples get in the way. Go straight to him and say, Lord, help me. Lord, please help me. And I promise you, because I have been there many times, I promise you, he is listening and he will help you. Glory to Jesus Christ.